Thousands of Indian students who were ready to go to the US to study this year are stuck in limbo because they've spent the last 1 year doing their application, securing the grades, getting the seats that they needed in those American universities, and now visas are delayed, appointments are not available, and there's a spike in the number of rejections of applications for student visas, especially Indian students going to the US. What is really going on? Let's quickly break it down based on whatever information we have so far. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and share this video with someone you feel might find it useful. Now, I want to start off by giving you the numbers of last year, right? So in 2024, US had a total of 15 lakh active international students, of which 4.2 lakh were Indian students, and India was more than China, and India had overtaken China in the number of students we were sending to the US to study every year. They were contributing a cumulative $8 billion a year to the American economy. And this is a joint statement by the Prime Minister Modi, our Prime Minister, and President Trump in February this year. And because when Indian students go to study, there's obviously the tuition fees that but there's housing, there's travel, there's daily expenses. There's a lot of money that gets spent and supports that economy. Somehow this year things are different. What has happened this year? There was a month-long visa freeze between May 27th and June 26th when the US embassies were reworking their system to take a closer look at social media history of every single applicant. So there was a freeze in the number of interviews that were giving out. And even though interview slots have now resumed, apparently it is very chaotic. Now, the Mint has reported as of the 7th of July that students are facing unavailable cancelled appointments, very long waits for interviews, a rising number of 221G notices, which basically means the visa has not been refused but temporarily put on pause until more information is provided. So Section 221G is not a full denial. It basically means the embassy needs more administrative processing and verifying of documents, but the problem is that could take days or months, and students' courses begin in August and they need to start planning their travel. Now, the consultants who work on the ground helping students with, admissions are saying that this is the worst season that they have seen in years. According to educational consultants that are being, quoted by the Times of India and by NDTV, outbound student traffic from India to the US has plummeted an estimated 70% this year compared to last year, specifically from hubs like Hyderabad and Ahmedabad, where the numbers tend to be higher than the rest of the country. Visa rejections are apparently skyrocketing, even for students with clean records and early applications. Now, I'm reading out of a website called Inside Higher Education, which basically says the US Department of State issued 12,689 fewer F1 visas, which are student visas, in May this year compared to May last year. And this would forecast a decline in the number of international students who are likely going to attend the fall season this year. Now, recently published data from the State Department of the US shows a 22% drop in F1 visas across the world, a 13% decline in J1 visas. And while visa issuances can help sort of predict international student enrollments, one senior director, public policy, NAFSA, has said basically we will only know in September who arrives and who doesn't to know what enrollment really looks like, but it's not looking encouraging this year. Apparently, also colleges and universities are anticipating a decline in the number of student populations on their campuses. The Institute of International Education in America has found a 40% of the institutions are projecting declines in their undergraduate international student population. 49% of the universities are anticipating a drop in graduate student population, so people doing their masters. The NFSA has also done a survey of 150 members this summer and found that 78% of the universities predict a decline in both graduate and undergraduate international students. Now, the Financial Times has run a calculation in the US that was published last week and has found that a decline of 10% among international students enrollment in the US will lead to a drop of $3 billion revenue for colleges and universities in America. And a significant portion of the loss would be in tuition revenue, or tuition as the Americans call it. A 10% drop would result in a $900 million decrease in tuition fees. Now, Sanjeev Rai, who is a Hyderabad overseas consultant, has said that normally by this time in the year, students are done with their visa interviews and they're preparing to fly out, they're packing. This year, we're still refreshing the portal every day, hoping that a slot will be open. Ankit Jain from Window Overseas Education Consultancy has explained that some interview slots appear briefly. Students have not received confirmation. They're not really sure what is really going on. So what is causing the chaos? Remember that May-June visa appointment freeze has created a bottleneck because now there are too many takers for just a few appointments. Apparently increased scrutiny of digital footprint. So the system is analyzing all of the social media, which is slowing things down even further. There are new policies under the Trump administration that is less forgiving than the previous administration, and wait times have gone up 45 to 60 days. Apparently Kolkata is the slowest for wait times. Just to give you a refresh, you remember President Trump has revoked thousands of student visas in the US. So people who are already studying in the US have had their visas revoked for protests, for what they're calling anti-Semitic behavior or pro-Palestinian protests, for minor legal violations like speeding tickets, or simply because they did not respect American values. So Al Jazeera has reported that more than 4,700 students in the US have had their visas sort of been revoked, or they've been removed from the immigration system. Inside Higher Ed says 1,600 student visas were cancelled by April alone this year. There is another angle that's coming up now, where basically the US Embassy in India recently cancelled 2,000 visa appointments because they were booked by bots that agents are using. So apparently you have to actually go and book a slot, but agents are using bots to monopolize slots. And now the embassy has zero tolerance apparently, and when they find out that the DS-160 has been booked using a bot, that candidate's account will be suspended. So it's very dangerous. If you happen to be using, if you're a student, you're using an agent who's using a bot, that could put a permanent strike on your record basically. So what do? Book your own DS-160s if possible to stay in control. If you have used an agent and it's likely apparently that the IP address is going to be different from yours and not on yours or your family name, then when you're asked the question, be honest about it and don't lie. Avoid agents who are using bots. Choose universities independently and ensure all your documents are genuine when you go in for that appointment. What do you do if you have not got an appointment, if you've been asked for more information, or you're stuck in some way? Now these are some of the recommendations that are coming in. Check for an emergency appointment eligibility. So apparently if your university program starts within the next 60 days and you don't have an appointment yet, you may qualify for an emergency appointment. So you need to go onto the website and see if that is possible, and of course keep proof of your course date start handy. Second, don't use agents who are using bots like I told you. Number 3, reach out to the designated school official or the DSO in the university that's given you your admission and ask what should be done. If they recommend a deferral, then use the deferral. Is there anything else you can do? Maybe hybrid online classes and start right now. Figure out what needs to be done. Make sure your documentation is up to the mark. If it is a 221G, which is you're being asked for more documents, respond as quickly as possible with the documents and track your status online. Keep all of your bank statements, your loan statements, everything that needs to be done, keep it handy, and keep it when you go in for your appointment, scholarship letters, family income documents, keep everything handy and easy to access. And slots are being released in batches and not all at once. So I guess best of luck. Now many universities are allowing students to defer until January 2026 without a penalty. So check if your housing deposit, your tuition deposit, your flight bookings can also be sort of carried forward 6 months to be used in January, and see if if you can book slots accordingly so that you don't lose your very hard-earned spot in the university that you've gotten into. But unfortunately, this is the situation that we're currently looking at. We don't have fresh data, like we don't have the latest data of what kind of slots are being approved or what kind of visas are being issued. This is what we have so far, but it does seem like quite a scramble, even for students who started early, who have all of their documents, whose records are completely clean. It still seems like a scramble. So speak to the right people and stay informed.